Hi, this is Jonathan Kutsavatsky at Dalet MEDIATalks here at NAB 2018 with Tom from IMT. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks very much, Jonathan.
Can you tell us a little bit about IMT?
Well, Jonathan, IMT has been in business for quite some time now. I've been with IMT for almost 9 years. And effectively what we do is we focus on clients, prospects, customers that need help in the area of file-based workflows, file systems, storage systems, media asset management systems, transcoding, archiving through to the cloud, hierarchical storage management systems, anything where you're touching data and you want to preserve that data for the long term. And we've been quite successful at it, thankfully. We have good people.
So I understand that Dalet and IMT have been working on a few projects together and have a good history. Can you talk about our relationship?
We have. I've known Dalet since you guys were incepted, and always had a great deal of respect for your company. And before I started selling Dalet into our client base, I was always impressed with the people and your touch with reality in terms of people talk about MAM systems and content management systems and the like, but what you do is you're in a lot of different environments, and that's important. You have a support organization that can protect a client's initial investment, and that's also important. And then I look at how many projects have you done in, let's say, the last year. That's really important, because when you're carrying a lot of people in support and sales and the like, you can pretty much figure out whether a company is sustainable and how much does that company put back into its revenue picture to ensure that they can do research and development for the long term. And so our clients, I'll use CBS Sports Network as an example, we had a very short time a few years back to take them to air with a system. We vetted 9 different MAM systems at that time, and multiple storage vendors. And what we needed to ensure is that though it's CBS Sports Network, what they do is they do news. They cut highlights for sports in a news fashion. And so we needed to make sure that we could implement on time. Dalet had the team, the capabilities, the system, and the personnel to be able to get them to air, working in concert and collaborating with IMT to ensure the credibility of their first day on air and throughout.
So what made the Dalet offer special, interesting for IMT to actually go out and pitch it to CBS Sports?
The interesting thing about Dalet is that when you look at companies that want to be all things to all people, or all clients in that case, it's really important to focus on what do they do well. What CBS needed in this particular application, they needed to be able to ingest multiple high definition inputs from remote locations, and they needed to be able to do that live. And so therefore, they needed to be able to log that content as it came in. They needed to be able to handle the content in terms of categories and search parameters that would allow them to be productive in all of these feeds that are coming in, all of the content that's being logged, all of that content that's being stored and being edited at 50 different locations within the environment, and to do it efficiently and reliably. That's the key when you go to something like March Madness, Final Four, and Sweet 16 as a predecessor to the Final Four. It's really critical that the viewership, that's a massive tournament in the United States, and that the viewership gets what they need. And you have to be able to work with a company that's able to turn that content over quickly, get it in front of the editors and the producers, and be able to get it to air and do it efficiently and cost effectively.
So broadcasting is our bread and butter, of course, but we're also working on other projects such as House of Worship. How do House of Worships use a MAM and the services of IMT?
Well, what's interesting about religious organizations, houses of worship, is that they have the same needs really that a news organization or a sports organization would require. And it's really interesting when you start thinking about, well, there are houses of worship that are in stadiums, and they may have 45,000 people on a Sunday, and they're distributing their content live or via web or handheld mobile devices out to their parishioners anywhere they may be around the world. And so it's really critical that the content that they've acquired, and in many cases, in many countries all around the world, that the content that they've acquired can be edited and can be saved and brought back and repurposed and put together for live broadcast or for streaming applications later on. So houses of worship, in many cases, like I say, they have the same needs that broadcasters do.
So what are other segments that we're working on together besides broadcasting and House of Worship?
Well, sports is a big thing. CBS Sports Network is a big organization, and they do a massive amount of content distribution to their viewers, their eyeballs. And so when we look at sports as an example, whether it's teams or leagues or organizations, retail is a big thing. Keeping track of inventory, keeping track of photos, so videos, contracts in many cases. When you start talking about what's important to a sports team, everything's important to a sports team. Pictures and contracts and documents and the like. So really anybody that is producing content of any type, whether it's stills or video, it's important for them to archive that. And once you store more than one piece of content, you've got to give the editors or graphics personnel or producers the ability to find that. Dalet does that very well.
As you know, Dalet also has an orchestration platform. How important is orchestration for your customers?
Oh, very much so. Especially when you look at orchestration and you tie that into cloud and archive, the orchestration model feeds hand in hand with that. And so when I look at what you're doing with the cloud, with Amazon, and we'll just talk about AWS for a moment, Dalet lets you handle all of the needs of archive or transcoding or compute on-prem. But it also allows you to go to air with that content, and it allows you to archive that up in the cloud. And so if you wanted to do transcode on the fly, you can do that in the cloud. You can do that on-prem. You can have a hybrid model. And so AWS allows you to handle compute in the cloud, and AWS allows you to stream from the cloud. And Dalet gives you the handles to be able to do that in the cloud or on-prem, and that's really important. And it's especially important when you talk about orchestration and you talk about multiple geographic locations, whether it's London, Tokyo, Sydney, Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, or Sao Paulo. It doesn't matter. Everybody can look as if they're working in the same room, in the same environment. Orchestrating, collaborating, it's important.
So cloud is definitely a buzzword out here at NAB, but another buzzword and another trend that's happening is AI. How important is a MAM solution when it's connected to artificial intelligence, for example?
Well, Jonathan, you bring up a really good point, because in many cases, if you used a sports team as an example, they have a number of tapes, films, whatever the case may be, in archive. They really don't have any metadata associated with it. And so let's say I was a sports team and I've got content going back to 1985. And I needed to be able to now transform and digitize that and bring it in. I'm going to need to log that. I'm going to need to be able to store that. And I'm going to have to add metadata to that has no metadata. This content has no metadata. And so therefore, if I bring that in and I I put another artificial intelligence capability on that. I could be object-based. I could select the number 42, the number 24, number 11. I could associate that with different players. I could associate that with games in the sun or games in the rain. I can associate metadata automatically as generated in an artificial intelligence environment. And now all of that metadata comes and stays with the asset. And I can't tell you how important that is, because when you look at a company like Veritone or Watson or AWS that offer these types of capabilities, and you tie that into Dalet, which you have done, then you've extended the capabilities of your system well beyond what anybody might have thought of 2 or 3 years ago, even at this NAB show.
Final question. Why should your customers use a Dalet MAM in their facilities?
Well, to me, once you store more than one piece of content, once you acquire more than one piece of content, it's really critical, if you're concerned about the cost of ownership of going out and purchasing cameras and recording devices and servers and the like, well, you can really extend the life of that investment by saving that content. And in many cases, there are rules and regulations that require you to save that content. Well, if you're going to save it, you need to know how to find it once you've stored more than one clip. And so to be able to search on any type of metadata or any type of category is critical to people as they grow their library. As we all know, big data, unstructured data, it's just flourishing in all different types of industries and all different types of environments. And so a Dalet MAM, what's important to me is A, will it accomplish the tasks that my clients want to accomplish? And then, is the company financially stable? Does the company reinvest their profits or a portion of their profits back into research and development and sustaining research and development? And is that company structured in such a manner that they can support for the long term wherever they happen to be selling, whether that's North America or EMEA or Asia Pac or wherever it happens to be. And Dalet has set up the structure of their organization to be able to accomplish all of the things that I just mentioned and more. And so that's important to me because this is my 41st NAB. I know a lot of people here, and they trust me, I hope, and they trust me to make sure that I'm not going to put them into a system or a solution that's only going to be around for a couple of years, and then they're going to have to swap it out. Because, by the way, if you do that, then you'd have to transfer the database from one media asset management to another. You'd have to migrate that database, and that's a bit of a chore and an exercise in its own right. We do that very well, but it's not something you want to have to do.
Understood. Great. Well, thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it.